For 23 years, he cleaned the same subway station. Every day he came at the same time, mopped the same floors with the same mop. Passengers never noticed him. They just knew him as the cleaning guy. Some would tell him, "Hurry up, old man." Others would drop their trash and walk past him. But nobody knew he was an Army explosive ordnance disposal specialist, or that he had neutralized over 200 bombs in Iraq, until that morning when he spotted a suspicious bag left in the station. Welcome to the Hidden Page Stories. Before we begin this powerful story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these stories alive. David Miller was 62 years old and worked at one of Manhattan's busiest subway stations. The 42nd Street Times Square station saw approximately 200,000 people pass through it daily. Everyone was rushing somewhere, everyone was in a hurry, and nobody noticed the old man cleaning the floors. David came to work at 6 a.m. every morning. Though his shift started at 7, there was a reason he came early. The metro system was quiet throughout the night, but he needed to check everything before the morning chaos began. Not just for cleaning, but for other things too. He knew every corner, every trash can, every bench. He knew which columns had shadow areas behind them, which corridors had fewer security cameras, where the emergency exits were located exactly. He had accumulated this knowledge over 23 years, but nobody questioned why. The metro workers called him Silent Dave. He didn't talk much, didn't joke around, would sit alone during breaks drinking his coffee. Young workers sometimes made fun of him. "Dave, have you ever had an adventure in your life?" they'd say. David would just smile and shrug. Passengers showed him even less respect. They'd rush past him, sometimes dropping trash and saying, "Clean that up." Some young people talking on their phones would yell at him, "Wait a second, old man, you're blocking the way." David never got angry. He'd just step aside and continue his work. But David's hands were different. Even when holding the mop, they were precise and controlled. When emptying trash cans, he'd examine everything with a careful eye, and sometimes, very rarely, when he noticed a strange sound or smell, he would stop. He'd turn his ear, narrow his eyes, and listen as if his life depended on it. Because once upon a time, his life really did depend on it. David Miller's real story began in 1985. Back then, he was Corporal David Miller, serving in the Army Engineering Unit. His specialty was neutralizing explosives, EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. He first trained in Germany. During the Cold War era, he served at NATO bases learning to work with all types of explosives. Then came the Gulf War. He was sent to Iraq. There, he learned real warfare. He served 2 tours in Iraq. During his first tour, he was inexperienced and scared, but he learned. During his second tour, he was a veteran. Now he could identify bombs by their sounds. He knew what type of explosive worked how, which color wires triggered what, how many minutes he had to neutralize a bomb. He had neutralized over 200 bombs. Roadside bombs, car bombs, landmines, improvised explosive devices. Each had its own distinctive sound. A faint ticking, the friction of metal particles, the buzz of digital displays. These sounds had kept him alive. But the cost was heavy. He lost friends, some right before his eyes. The silence before the explosion, the deafness afterward, smoke, blood, and the smell of metal, these never left him. When he left the Army in 1995, psychological help was recommended. He was diagnosed with PTSD. But David refused treatment. He wanted a quiet life, a life where nobody saw him as a hero, where nobody asked questions. When he found the metro job, it was perfect. He worked night shifts, rested at home during the day. Nobody talked to him. Nobody was curious about his past. Until that morning, September 3rd, Tuesday morning. David had come to work at 6 a.m. as usual. The station was still quiet, with only a few early passengers. He was following his routine, cleaning the floors. At 7:30 a.m., the morning rush had begun. People started flooding in. Though not as busy as rush hour, the station was full. David was cleaning in a corner where nobody paid attention. At 7:43 a.m., he saw it. On platform 4 near the bench sat an abandoned black sports bag. Ownerless, Nobody was approaching it, nobody seemed to claim it. David initially thought it was just a normal forgotten item. It was common in subway stations. But then he heard the sound, a faint, regular metallic ticking. Tick, tick, tick. David's hand stopped with the mop. His heartbeat quickened. That sound was familiar, very familiar. He slowly approached the bag. The sound became clearer, the sound of a digital timer, and there was a thin wire coming out of the bag's zipper. A red wire. David's breath caught. This was a bomb, and its timer was running. He looked around. There were about 300 people in the station. Most were young people going to work. None of them were aware of the danger. They were looking at their phones, drinking coffee, waiting for their trains. David immediately called the security guard. "Mike, there's a suspicious bag on platform 4. Mike was a young and inexperienced security guard. "Okay, Dave, I'll check it right away." But from Mike's slow steps, it was clear he didn't understand the seriousness of the situation. David looked at the bag again. The ticking continued. If he was right and this really was a bomb, the timer was running, and it would take at least 15 to 20 minutes for police and bomb disposal teams to arrive. They didn't have that much time. Mike finally arrived, breathing heavily. "Dave, which bag?" David pointed to the black bag near the bench. "That one. There's ticking coming from inside." Mike leaned down and listened. His face changed. "Oh my God, could this be a bomb?" "It could be," David said in a calm voice. "We should evacuate the station immediately. Call the police." Evacuation takes 10 minutes. Police arrival, 20 minutes. Bomb disposal team, 30 minutes. Mike looked at him. "How are you so sure about this?" David didn't answer. He approached the bag, carefully leaning down. The wire was indeed red and went into the bag. The sound was regular, digital, classic timer bomb. "Mike, listen to me. Start evacuating the station slowly. Don't cause panic. Just say, 'Technical malfunction.'" "What are you going to do?" David looked at the bag. Things he learned 20 years ago were coming back. Color codes, wire connections, timer mechanisms. "I'm staying here." "Are you crazy? If there's a bomb, you'll die too." David's eyes met Mike's. For the first time, he was this clear. "Son, I have some experience with bombs like this." Mike was surprised. You're just a cleaning guy." "No," David said quietly. "I'm Corporal David Miller. I served 2 tours in Iraq. I neutralized over 200 bombs, and right now, the lives of 300 people here are in my hands." Mike's mouth fell open. This old cleaning guy, was he a soldier? "Go, Mike. Evacuate the station. Give me 15 minutes. Mike hesitated, but the authority in David's voice convinced him. He ran to the security office. David was alone. He crouched by the bag. The ticking continued. But now he wasn't scared, wasn't panicking. His old reflexes had returned. First, he checked if he could open the bag. The zipper seemed free, but he needed to be careful. Some bombs were designed to detonate upon opening attempts. He examined around the bag. Were there other wires? Motion sensors? Weight sensors? There didn't appear to be any, but he needed to be sure. He slowly opened the zipper, millimeter by millimeter, holding his breath. What he saw inside both relieved and worried him. It was a homemade bomb. Not professional, but effective. Plastic explosive, timer, detonator, and wire network. Classic suicide bomber design. David had seen dozens like it in Iraq. He looked at the timer. Red digital numbers. 0814, 0813, 0812. 8 minutes left. David carefully examined the bag. The wire connections were simple, but could be deceptive. The red wire went to the detonator, blue to the timer, yellow to the plastic explosive. But there was also a green wire, and he couldn't see where it went. This could be a trap wire. If he cut the wrong wire, the bomb could explode immediately. 0745, 0744, 0743. Passengers were still moving around him. Mike had started the evacuation process, but it was slow. People didn't understand why they needed to leave. They were resisting, asking questions. David used his small pocket knife to open the plastic cover. He could see the circuit board now, old model but functional. There were 2 backup detonators. This bomb was really prepared to explode. 0712, 0711, 0710. David's hands were shaking, but years of training kicked in. He controlled his breathing, calmed his heartbeat. He applied the meditation techniques he learned in Iraq. First, he followed the green wire. It went to the back of the circuit board and connected to a second timer. This bomb had a dual safety system. Even if the main timer stopped, the second timer would activate. Smart, David muttered. But I've seen smarter. 0645, 0644, 0643. David's plan was simple but high risk. He needed to neutralize both timers simultaneously. If he stopped one and left the other running, the bomb would still explode. With the small screwdriver from his pocket, he approached the circuit board. He needed to find the wire that cut power to the main timer. Not red, not blue, white. The white wire coming from the power source. But he needed to do the same thing for the second timer. And he needed to cut both at exactly the same time. 0530, 0529, 0528. David took the knife in both hands. In his left hand, the white wire of the main timer. In his right hand, the white wire of the second timer. He would cut both simultaneously. But first he needed to be sure. If he made the wrong choice, not only would he die, but hundreds of people around him would die. 05 o'clock, 0459, 0458, final check. Main timer, white wire, power source. Second timer, white wire, power source. Both looked correct. 0430, 0429, 0428. David took a deep breath. Okay, buddy, he said to himself, you did this 200 times in Iraq. You can do it one more time. 04 o'clock, 0359, 0358. 3, 0355, 2, 0354, 1. David cut both wires simultaneously. The timer stopped. Both screens went dark. The ticking ceased. David waited for a minute, then 2 minutes. The bomb hadn't exploded. He had succeeded. He stood up, his legs shaking. After 23 years, he had neutralized another bomb, and this time, nobody had died. Mike came running. Dave, are you okay? The bomb! What happened to the bomb? Neutralized, David said in a calm voice. You really neutralized it? David shrugged. Old habits. When the police arrived, bomb experts examined David's work. Perfect job, said the bomb disposal expert. Who did this? Mike pointed to David. Our cleaning guy, Dave. The bomb expert was surprised. A cleaning guy? What training did you receive? Army, David said briefly. Which unit? EOD, Iraq. The bomb expert shook David's hand. Brother, do you know how many lives you saved today? David looked at the station. Passengers were starting to return. Life was returning to normal. None of them knew how close they had come to disaster. I just did my job, David said. The next day, David came to work as usual. Same uniform, same mop, same calm demeanor. But now everything was different. Metro workers had stopped calling him Silent Dave. Now they called him Hero Dave. Young workers approached him with respect, asking questions. Dave, were you really in Iraq? Dave, how many bombs have you neutralized? David answered all of them patiently, but didn't go into much detail. The past should stay in the past. Passengers had changed too. Those who heard the news recognized him, thanked him. Some wanted to take photos, but David politely declined. I just did my job, he said each time. Mike came to him. Dave, why didn't you surprise me? Why didn't you ever mention it? David stopped his mop, looked at Mike. Because, Mike, some people want to be known for what they do today, not their past. But you're a hero. No, Mike, I'm a cleaning guy, and I have some experience with bombs, that's all. David Miller never gave interviews to the media. He never told heroic stories. The next day, he continued working with the same mop, at the same station, in the same silence. Because real heroes don't act for applause, they act when necessary. David Miller had learned this 23 years ago. That day he just remembered, and the subway station, thanks to David, continued to be one of the safest places in the world. Because sometimes the most ordinary-looking people have the most extraordinary abilities. Now I ask you, have you ever encountered someone like David? Someone who seemed ordinary, but actually had extraordinary stories? Share their story in the comments. Because at Hidden Page Stories, we believe that heroes who serve silently will not be forgotten. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and help keep these voices alive. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, if you see an old man working quietly at a subway station, know that his story might be much deeper than you think.